Hello Bio 2, this is Mr. B, and we are starting today with our diversity of mammals. So this is going to be the different groups of mammals that are alive today is what this section is going to take a look at. And so to start, our class is Mammalia, so the mammals make up the class Mammalia, and it contains about 4,500 different species. So within this entire living species today, we have 4,500 different types of mammals. And we classify them usually based on tooth structure and the number and kind of bones in the head. So that's our main classification tool for mammals, is tooth structure and the types of bones they have in their head. And the most important way to however, the most important way to categorize living animals is by the way they reproduce and develop. So this is kind of like a secondary, I would say, classification. However, the first step is to classify them by the way they reproduce and develop. Once we classify them by that, we look at their tooth structure and the number of type of bones in their head. And so our three groups of living mammals today are monotremes, marsupials, and placentals. And the two we're going to talk about today are the monotremes and the marsupials. So now we're going to have to look at, again, how do these three groups differ from one another? So why do we categorize them differently? So our first one are monotremes, and these are kind of the weirdest ones, and they lay eggs. So these are a group of mammals that lay eggs. This is what you're going to need to know about monotremes. And monotremes, as well as laying eggs, or actually I guess laying eggs is part of it, they share two notable characteristics with reptiles. The first one being that their digestive, reproductive, and urinary systems all open into a cloaca. So the monotremes have a cloaca just like all the reptiles did. And their females lay soft-shelled eggs that incubate outside the body. So these monotremes, they are in fact mammals, they have hair. However, this kind of could serve to tell us that we did in fact descend from reptiles because this group of mammals shares a lot of characteristics with reptiles. And so even though they hatch out of an egg, young monotremes are nourished by their mother's milk, which they lick from pores on her abdomen. So the mom does still produce milk with pores on her abdomen. And today, we only have three species of monotremes that exist. First one of my personal favorite animals, the duck-billed platypus. And there's two species of what are called spiny anteaters, or echidnas. So you pronounce this word echidna. And these animals are only found in Australia and New Guinea, which is an island basically right off the coast of Australia. And so here is what these animals look like. So this is our echidna, or the spiny anteater, and then right here we have the duck-billed platypus, which we'll take a look at an article in class about this because they are one interesting animal. Actually, something interesting about the platypus is that when they first got sent over to Europe to the main scientists that were there at the time, they thought it was a joke. They thought that someone had sewn together a bunch of random body parts. They did not actually think that this was a real live animal. So that is the monotremes. The big thing is they lay eggs. So our next one is the marsupials. And the marsupials, they give birth to live young. However, they give birth at a very early stage of development. So when they give birth to their live young, they are extremely tiny. They could not live for themselves at all, and they would die almost instantly if they did not have the mother. And young marsupials, however, they complete their development in an external pouch. So they live inside of a pouch. And when marsupials reproduce, the fertilized eggs develop into an embryo inside the mother's reproductive tract. So, and they kind of gave this to you out of order. So they reproduce, the fertilized egg develops into an embryo, the young comes out live but at a very early stage, and they complete their development in an external pouch. And so kind of the step, though, is once born, the embryo will crawl across its mother fur, and it attaches to a nipple. And there actually is a video of a baby kangaroo, which is an example of a marsupial, crawling to reach its mother, and it is like it's an adventure. And if they didn't, then a lot of them don't make it and die because it is such a long and hard trip for them. And so they attach to the nipple, and the nipples are located in a pouch, which is called the marsupium, on the outside of the mother's body. And the embryo will spend several months attached to this nipple. So even though they're born live, they spend several months of their lives just attached, drinking the milk from their mother. And then the young marsupial will drink milk until it grows enough to survive on its own. And then it can come out of the pouch, and then, however, for part of its young life, it will stay inside the pouch. So, and just some examples of a marsupial would be things like a kangaroo, a koala, and we actually have one marsupial that lives in the United States, and that is the possum. So that's the only marsupial that we have. So we're going to get into our last group of mammals on our next video. So that's it for this one. Let me know if you have any questions.